Might as well start this week off, nice and controversial, because as you can see up here, right, Halloween is the most overrated holiday that's out there. You thought I was gonna address the topic at hand? No. I gotta get this out of my system because it's only gonna be relevant for today. I don't get Halloween. I don't like Halloween. Halloween is for little kids and a bunch of creepy old broads who are trying to recapture their youth by just putting their titties out there on display. It's sad. It's pathetic. If you want to see tits, you want to see ass, learn a little fucking game. Otherwise, go pay $50 and then just go get your fucking rocks off. Outside of that, though, how about something that's a little bit less controversial, okay? How the DHS just ended up admitting that they were active participants in stealing elections. Huh, weird. All right, then. The Truth Cops leaked documents outline DHS's plans to police disinformation. This comes straight from the Intercept. Lee Fang and Ken Klipstein authored this tome that, you know what, hey man, if they continue to piss off the right people, they're going to end up catching a fucking, tough one here with that type of rhetoric. There we go. Now that we have it all nice and formatted properly, so you can all read along with me, because it's a long boy that we have in here. Pause. I don't know how much I'm going to read to this, so it depends on how engaging it is. I've seen a couple of excerpts, and this thing is blowing up social media right now. DHS leaks are trending. It's kind of weird, because I've seen a couple of different screenshots from a few different people, and there's explanations for the things that are above it trending and below it trending, but nothing for DHS leaks. Now, I know that Elon's doing his thing over there at Twitter, and more people care about that than what is actually going on with the government, and the fact that they're just being exposed in 4K and caught red-handed, whatever the fuck the new meta is out there. Few people care about this stuff. Otherwise, they just want to get in on the meme. And I kind of respect those guys because they're just apolitical chaos agents. And fucking spurgs on the internet are going to do what spurgs on the internet are going to do. But over here, in this corner of the world, we want the documents. We have the documents. We're going to look at them. Because we can't let the globalists take over like they kind of did in Brazil. Fucking rip Brazil, I guess. Hey, man, some of them fucking favela voters just decided that they wanted, degeneracy to sprinkle throughout the rest of the country again. Oh, well, get out while you can, I suppose. The Department of Homeland Security is quietly broadening its effort to curb speech it considers dangerous. An investigation by the Intercept has found years of internal DHS memos, emails, and documents obtained via leaks and an ongoing lawsuit, as well as public documents, illustrate an expansive effort by the agency to influence tech platforms. Yeah, I guess this is just kind of an extrapolation on that other lawsuit that we've been talking about specifically on this channel, and a few other places have as well, but it's pretty important because it's the Attorney General's Eric Schmidt from Missouri, and I forget the poor fucker over there in Louisiana, okay? They both decided to petition the Supreme Court because it's like, okay, cool, we got documents from the heads of Google, Twitter, Meta, because that involves Facebook and Instagram. They're kind of in there when it comes to censoring things, okay? That one, I believe, okay, if I remember. It's been a minute since we talked about it specifically. But that was more or less about the coof. But this one right here, it gets a little bit broader than that. It's another one of those topics that big tech really hates you discussing in any detail. So, like I said, I don't know how much of this I'm going to read about it, but of course I'm going to be linking to it in the description. Feel free to just read about it as much as you want, because I want to keep it above board in as many places as possible, because this is very important information. The work, much of which remains unknown to the American public, came into clear view earlier this year when the DHS announced a new disinformation governance board. Boy, that was a fun couple of weeks now, wasn't it, with that? I don't know. Some pictures made her look like a 6. Other ones made her look like a 4. I forget her name, but she was big on TikTok. That was the lady who was running this disinformation governance board, the Biden Ministry of Truth. And it's like, well, fuck, people figured out what the hell we're going to be fucking doing. We can't have this out here if everybody knows it, so we're just going to close it for the time being. They'll try it again under a different moniker. Just give them enough fucking time, okay? It could be next year. It could be the next Democratic administration, or hell, even the fucking Republican Party can end up flipping it and just deciding to do it because, I don't know, maybe I'll just take the God pill and need to do it in the name of the fucking Lord or whatever. But anyways, for those of you in the back who forgot about this, a panel designed to police misinformation, false information spread unintentionally, right? Disinformation, false information spread intentionally, and malinformation. So bad information, factual information shared, typically out of context with harmful intent. Oh, so if the truth hurts your feelings, it can get flagged. Terrific. A great board that you had there. That allegedly threatened U.S. interests. That's kind of one of those things where it comes to top secrets, for a lack of a better term, confidential information. There we go. How about we go with that? Okay, if you leak that and it's somehow could affect national security or something like that. But, you know, this was just kind of aimed at people expressing uncomfortable truths, and it was just a way to fucking ban them, because let's keep it a buck, when all of this stuff ended up coming to light and the censorious leanings of the department head were put on fucking blast, yeah, that's when they decided to roll up shop. While the board was wildly ridiculed, immediately scaled back, and then shut down within a few months. God, it was open for that long. It felt like a couple of weeks, but hey man, whatever. You guys know about this stuff. You're on the ground. Find them the receipts. Other initiatives are underway as DHS pivots to monitoring social media now that its original mandate, the war on terror, has been wound down. Yeah, and they're trying to spark up something else over there in, Eastern Europe, but hey man, they'll eventually get to the bottom of it, and it just needs a couple more $1 billion. Don't worry about it. Behind closed doors, and through pressure on private platforms, the U.S. government has used its power to try to shape online discourse. According to the meeting minutes and other records appended to the lawsuit filed by Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt, there he is, a Republican, who is also running for the Senate. Hey, good for him. He's a real one. Have ranged from the scale and scope of government intervention in online discourse to the mechanics of streamlining takedown requests for false or intentionally misleading information. Oh wow, so for false strikes that get out there for just uncomfortable information that's put out there, or I guess that would be malinformation, right, if we're going to be using their categories on this one. Oh, okay, cool. It's not like I don't know specifically multiple times over what that's like to get hit with something just because, you're stating the fucking facts about things. Crazed, deranged lunatics who don't have their fucking emotions under control, specifically in New York City, you know what? Can't be talking about them, or I even forget, legitimately, it's been so long since I've went over there and checked like what my most recent strike was about, but it was something from a few months ago, and it was also fucking retarded, but this is where we're at this point. So it's just nice to see that I'm not paranoid after all, that there is somebody, behind the scenes pulling the strings. Platforms have got to get comfortable with government. It's really interesting how hesitant they remain. Microsoft executive Matt Masterson. That sounds like a fake name. Okay, that is something that somebody would make up on the fly. Okay, sir, it appears you were swerving while you were driving. If you had anything to drink tonight, okay. How do you identify yourself? What is your name? Matt Masterson. My friend over there, Chuck Steen, a former DHS official, texted Jen Easterly, DHS director, in February. Okay, in a March meeting, Laura Demlow, okay, an FBI official, warned that the threat of subversive information on social media could undermine support for the U.S. government. Oh my God, people expressing distrust with this current administration? Heaven forbid. It's just so weird. It's so weird because there was another prominent figure that just kind of looms large over the current administration who came out recently and said that the Republicans were the ones that had a plan on the books to steal future elections. Fucking funny how they always snitch on themselves. All you need to do is just simply pay attention at this point. They're getting so bad at it mostly because they're all in their fucking 80s, for Christ's sakes. Demlow, according to the notes of the discussions attended by senior executives from Twitter and JP Morgan Chase. You wonder why the banks are always in, and they're the newest addition to these deplatforming strategies that are out there. Who was the most recent case of somebody going through that, getting banned off of social media, and then having the bank step in and sever any relationships with them? Doesn't immediately come to mind. Perhaps my mind needs to get a little bit stronger on the subject. Perhaps I need to go consult some African Americans in Paris. Something gold digger. You know who I'm talking about. We do not coordinate with other entities, okay, when making content moderation decisions, and we independently evaluate content in line with the Twitter rules. A spokesperson for Twitter wrote in a statement in the Intercept. Whew. Thank God. I was thinking there was some sort of collusive effort between all of big tech and the government. I'm glad you clarified all that stuff. Let's just see what the key takeaways are. Okay, through DHS's shudder. There's no through there. Though DHS shuttered its controversial disinformation governance board, a strategic document reveals the underlying work is ongoing. DHS plans to target inaccurate information on the origins of the COVID pandemic and the efficacy of vaccines, racial justice, U.S. withdrawing from Afghanistan, and the nature of U.S. support to Ukraine. Facebook created a special portal for DHS and government partners to report disinformation directly. Yeah, but it doesn't say anything about Twitter, so I believe the guy who was there before Elon Musk decided to start cleaning house. Anyways, there is also a formalized process from government officials to directly flag content on Facebook or Instagram and request that it be throttled or suppressed through a special Facebook portal that requires a government or law enforcement email to use. At the time of writing, the concept request system, or content, it's fully in practice, I suppose, at facebook.com/x takedowns. Doesn't that kind of sound like a revenge porn site or something? xtakedowns.com. Anyways, slash login is still live. I'm sure it's probably been shuttered by this point in time after it's been, put to press, but there's probably archives of it out there at least. DHS and Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, we know, did not respond to requests for comment because they're like, oh, fuck, shut it all down, fuck. The FBI declined to comment. Yeah, no, they're too busy inspecting Hunter Biden's laptop and doing a thorough review of what they found, or I don't know, trying to indict Trump on some shit like that. He probably jaywalked at some point in time across the state border. Oh my god, call in the feds. DHS's mission to fight disinformation stemming from concerns around Russian influence in the 2016 presidential election. Very, very interesting, because how was that debunked? Alright, when the head of the intelligence agencies, John Ratcliffe, released a memo that a couple of senators, I think it was Grassley and Johnson were asking some questions, and it's like, no, actually Hillary Clinton was the one who was planting all of those Russia stories. And it's like, oh shit, okay. Again, they always fucking project. Now that we have all this information, especially in hindsight, when they were at least a little bit better, okay, at least when they had their hands on the levers of control, when their party was in charge, they could at least cover it up a little bit better. Now they're just getting brazen, mostly because they're desperate. Documents collected by the Intercept from a variety of sources, including current officials and publicly available reports, reveal the evolution of more active measures by DHS. Oh shit, active measures? Where's Yuri Bezmenov? According to draft copy of DHS's Quadrennial Homeland Security Review, DHS's capstone report outlining the department's strategy and priorities in coming years. The department plans to target inaccurate information on a wide range of topics, including the origins of the COVID pandemic and the efficacy of vaccines, racial justice, U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Wow, all of these things worked incredibly well for Joe Biden. I wonder why everything's getting fucking suppressed, because that one right there in the middle, I could give a fuck really about the rest of that stuff. The nature of the U.S. support to the Ukraine, we all have conspiracy theories about that one, but the withdrawal from Afghanistan, that'll be a reason why I will never, ever, 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 ever support anybody affiliated with the Biden administration, because that one right there, man, there are 13 people who were needlessly killed because some spurgy old man wanted to meet a self-imposed deadline, took a look at the strategy that was already on the books, already put in place. Wheels were already spinning on that one, but no, Orange Man didn't. I can do it better, okay? Blow up everything that we have left there and just take all the troops and then just tell the brownies to fuck off as you drive away. Fuck that dude. God, that's despicable. 20 fucking years. Just about 20 fucking years of boots on the ground gone over the course of a weekend. And nobody talks about it anymore. It fucking makes me sick. The challenge is particularly acute in marginalized communities. Wait, what? The report states, which are often the targets of false or misleading information, such as false information on voting procedures targeting people of color. Interesting, because what was that when I was talking about TikTok? I don't know if that video's out or anything like that, but I get maybe it's a spoiler or a recap of one of the pieces of content that's coming out. But there was specific, obviously fake advised to test the efficacy of the policies that TikTok said that they put in place when it came to election information, which I don't know why you need to proselytize to a bunch of 13-year-olds, but you do you, I guess. But it ended up coming out that 90% of the time, their policies, TikTok policies, were totally fucking ineffective. And most of the stuff, it was focusing on some very brazen things, like places, times, and ability for you to vote, what you could use for ID, and a couple of other things as well. A lot of the stuff was all about the election, and then, well, actually it all was. All of the stuff was about the specifics of going in and voting, okay? And that just all went right through like water through a fucking screen door. So it's interesting. It's very interesting that now they've exposed this going on other platforms as well. The inclusion of the 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan is particularly noteworthy given that House Republicans, should they take the majority in the midterms, have vowed to investigate. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things where, okay, everybody's just kind of putting it off on the back burner. It's like, shut up, no, we don't need to pay attention to that right now. It's all good, no, it's fine. Mostly because, hey, guess what? If you want to take a little bit of a black pill on this topic, if the Republicans, if everything just kind of flares out in Ukraine and Russia, okay, the Uniparty needs another ready-made war, okay, to go in there and offer some freedom because, oh my God, did you see those Iranian protests? Oh, those girls just want to show their hair. There's something to that. Come on now. I was born at night, but not last night. Anyways, the Afghanistan investigation. This makes Benghazi look like a much smaller issue. Well, only 4 people died in Benghazi. I think I got that right. That was still horrific, and we're never going to get to the fucking bottom of that. But yeah, if they actually crack this motherfucker wide open, according to Representative Mike Johnson, a Republican from Louisiana, good for him, a member of the Armed Services Committee, adding the finding answers will be top priority. I hope they do. I really hope they do, because those families... Man, they deserve justice, okay? And there's one person who should be fucking paying up for that. Anyways, how disinformation is defined by the government has not been clearly articulated. It's never going to be. It's whatever we don't like, and if we have a ready-made example, and if we have a ready-made reason to just get it off the platform, we'll use that, because that's fine. That's disinformation. It's just a coward's way of saying you're lying without having to ever back it up with receipts or proof. That's what that's what I would call disinformation in today's day and age. And the inherently subjective nature of what constitutes disinformation provides a broad opening for DHS's officials to make politically motivated determinations about what constitutes dangerous speech. DHS justifies these goals, which have expanded far beyond its original purview on foreign threats to encompass disinformation, originating domestically, by claiming that terrorist threats can be exacerbated by misinformation and disinformation spread online. They have nothing to back that up. They're just making these bold fucking claims because these alphabet agencies get way too fucking lofty and way too wide-reaching in what they can go in and investigate, okay? Because the Department of Homeland Security, it encompasses a whole bunch of things. And it has a whole bunch of overlap with the likes of, ATF, FBI, Customs and Border Patrol. Like, DHS does a whole bunch of fucking things. Are they unnecessary? Or are the 4 or 5 or 6 different subsidiaries underneath of them unnecessary? Regardless, big government, a lot of paychecks, and a whole bunch of enforcement that the government can call in at a fucking snap of a finger. The laudable goal of protecting Americans from danger has often been used to conceal political maneuvering. Yes, sir, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. The 9 scariest words that you can ever hear a government official string together in your presence. Old saying care of Ronald Reagan. Before I lost my marbles, yes. Even in his final 2 years of presidency, still 1,000 times more lucid than Joe Biden has ever been since he's assumed his throne in the Oval Office. In 2004, for instance, DHS officials faced pressure from the George W. Bush administration. Hey, remember, weapons of mass destruction? No, trust me, they have them over there in the Middle East because, my father sold them some tubes. Oh, wait, fuck, I wasn't supposed to say that part. Now watch me hit this drive and choke on this pretzel. To heighten the national threat level for terrorism in a bid to influence voters prior to the election. Weird. It's not like you needed much help beating the fucking Carrie Edwards ticket. Which I forget whose joke this was. It sounds like, the fucking head cheerleader who just gives hand jobs behind the stadium bleachers to the star players on the football team. It's like terrible, charismaless ticket. And Christ, you were running against Bush and Cheney, for fuck's sakes. Another topic, another time. According to former DHS Secretary Tom Ridge, U.S. officials have routinely lied about an array of issues, from its causes of its wars in Vietnam and Iraq. Oh my God. Did you just somehow corroborate the story that the Gulf of Tonkin was a false flag endeavor? Holy. To a more recent obfuscation around the role of the National Institution of Health and its funding of the Wuhan Institute of Virology Coronavirus Research. Yeah, buddy, we're going to be finding out very, very soon that it wasn't no fucking wet market. I'll just leave it at that. The track record has not prevented the U.S. government from seeking to become arbiters of what constitutes false or dangerous information on the inherently political topics. Earlier this year, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law known by supporters as the Stop Woke Act. Ugh, I like you, Ron, but that's cringe as a motherfucker, okay? I get it, but at the same time, brother, which bans private employers from workplace trainings, asserting an individual's moral character is privileged or oppressed based on his or her race, color, sex, or national origin. The law, critics charged, amounted to a broad suppression of speech deemed offensive. No. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, or FIRE to their friends, I guess, has since filed a lawsuit against DeSantis, alleging unconstitutional censorship. A federal judge temporarily blocked parts of the Stop Woke Act, ruling that law had violated workers' First Amendment rights. Well, that'll be interesting because might have just kicked that hornet's nest to figure out, okay, what constitutes hiring policies? Okay, what does it mean to have due process to fire somebody? That could be very interesting. Okay, Florida's legislatures may well find plaintiff speech repugnant, but under our constitutional scheme, the remedy for repugnant speech is more speech, not enforced silence. Yeah, but then he's also saying you can't force anybody to take these stupid fucking courses. And it's like, no, stop censoring us. It's like, wait, what? Wrote Judge Mark Walker in a colorful opinion castigating the law. Yeah, it's probably because his background, whatever he does, is also very recognizably colorful, if you get my drift. To the extent to which DHS initiatives affect Americans' daily social feeds is unclear. During the 2020 election, the government flagged numerous posts as suspicious, many of which were then taken down, documents cited by Missouri Attorney General's lawsuit disclosed. Yeah, especially on social media specifically, like YouTube's in that kind of weird place where is it social media, isn't it? For the sake of this conversation, I'll acquiesce to the it is social media crowd. I think it's something a little bit different, but we're just quibbling at this point. In regards to the 2020 election, I remember specifically, okay, because YouTube was changing its policies, okay, you can't talk about the election in whatever terms you'd like to use, okay, and they had a drop dead date of, I'm pretty sure it initially started, it was going to be Inauguration Day, okay? You cannot make any more claims after January 20th, okay? Anything before that, just go free reign. You can just go ahead and, talk about whatever you like. But then a little thing like January 6th ended up happening. And it's like, oopsie daisy. Then they pushed up that time frame, and then they just started nuking all of the content that could just be, somewhat considered, oh, you didn't want to toe the company line on that one, so yeah. Me specifically? Oh, God. There was a time where I was waking up every day and it said 3 videos of yours have been taken down. 2 videos, 4 videos, 6 videos. I think I had something like a couple dozen taken down. Not even joking or anything like that. That's what the fuck was going on at the time. Then ended up catching a couple of bans after the fact just because I was, pressing the issue a little bit. And it's like your boy's going to do what your boy's going to do. And a 2021 report by the Election Integrity Partnership at Stanford University found that nearly 4,800 flagged items technology platforms took action on 35%, either removing, labeling, or soft blocking speech, meaning that users were only able to view... sorry, my ankle just gave way. Not a new sound clip. View content after bypassing a warning screen. Oh, okay, cool. So what, age gating? Yeah, when I did my history of the Proud Boys video, that one ended up getting age restricted, and it's like, why? I'm just giving you the accurate, history on that because I used to be a Compound Media Anthony Cumia subscriber, and I seen Gavin McInnes talk about it on his old show. I'm like, for fuck's sakes, I seen that shit gestate in real time, okay? And then they were nothing until Joe Biden just whatever weirdly fucking name dropped them on the stage. And then all of a sudden they just became a 21st century clan for whatever fucking reason. Anyways, the research was done in consultation with CISA, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Great, fantastic. Prior to the 2020 election, tech companies, including Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Discord, Wikipedia, Microsoft, LinkedIn. I got nothing against Discord. It's just that's where people who are just, bitching and complaining about 4chan not being edgy enough for them, and furries as well. That's where they go. Good place for you. LinkedIn and Verizon Media met on a monthly basis with the FBI, CISA, sure, and other government representatives, according to NBC News. The meetings were part of an initiative still ongoing between the private sector and governments to discuss how firms would handle misinformation during the election. Fucking funny. Very fucking funny, because I seem to recall a couple of other things in there as well. Okay, if they're meeting with all the heads of these people, telling them what to take a look at and what to allow, what to flag, what to do with certain content as well, why were they so scramble fucked, and why did they seem to present themselves as being so taken by surprise by all of the different planning that was happening on January 6th, and we didn't know necessarily what was going to happen. That's why we didn't have to activate was it the Coast? No, not the Coast Guard. The National Guard. Capital's a little bit inland. Okay. So you were talking with all these people on a consistent basis, a fucking monthly basis, and you didn't know anything about that? Come on now. It's almost like the government knows more than what they're letting on. Interesting. Wow, we're just about at the 30-minute point, and I'm only about a quarter of the way through this one. I'll probably just start to go down to the key takeaways because they seem to be pretty accurate on this type of stuff. Okay, so the work is primarily done by CISA, a DHS sub-agency tasked with protecting critical and national infrastructure. DHS, the FBI, and several media entities are having bi-weekly meetings as recently as August of this year, huh? Okay. DHS considered countering disinformation relating to content that undermines trust in financial systems and courts. Great, wonderful, fantastic. The FBI agent who primed social media platforms to take down Hunter Biden's laptop story continued to have a role with DHS policy discussions. Yeah, I'm not going to do just the summaries on this. That seems pretty fucking important. The stepped-up counter-disinformation effort began in 2018 following high-profile hacking incidents of U.S. firms when Congress passed President Trump signed the Cybersecurity Information Security Agency Act, forming a new wing of the DHS devoted to protecting critical national infrastructure. You got to put a black mark on the record for T-money there. That was a fucking bad choice. An August 2022 report by the DHS Office of Inspector General sketches a rapidly accelerating move towards policing disinformation. From the outset, CISA boasted of an evolved mission. To monitor social media discussions while routing disinformation concerns to a private sector platforms. Why are you talking like that? That shit is fucking fascism, my guy. In 2018, then DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen created the Countering Foreign Influence Task Force. Did she just get to create a new agency because she could find a cute acronym or some shit like that? She could string together enough scary sounding words. Unbelievable. The task force, which included members of CISA as well as the Office of Intelligence and Analysis, generated threat intelligence about the election and notified social media platforms and law enforcement. At the same time, DHS began notifying social media companies about voting-related disinformation appearing on social media platforms. Wow, for the 2018 midterms, very interesting. In 2019, DHS created a separate entity called the Foreign Influence and Interference Branch to generate more detailed intelligence about disinformation. The Inspector General report shows. That year, its staff grew to include 15 full and part-time staff dedicated to disinformation analysis. Wow, a whole 15 people. Cool. In 2020, the disinformation focus expanded to include COVID-19, according to Homeland Threat Assessment, issued by Acting Secretary Chad Wolf. Still a great name. His apparatus had a dry run during the 2020 election. What's this dry run shit? When the CISA began working with other members of the U.S. intelligence community, Office of Intelligence and Analysis, analysis, sorry. Personnel attended weekly teleconferences to coordinate intelligence community activities to counter election-related disinformation, according to an IG report. Oh, to the Inspector General report. Okay, not Instagram. That would be weird to just throw in there. Meeting to continued to take place every 2 weeks since the elections. Emails between DHS officials, Twitter, and the Center for Internet Security outlining the process for such takedown requests during the period leading up to November of 2020. Gee, what happened then? Meeting notes show that the tech platforms would be called upon to process reports and provide timely responses to include the removal of reported misinformation from the platform where possible. And what side of the aisle did all of the disinformation peddling come from? What side was affected during that one? Interesting. In practice, this often meant state election officials sent examples of potential forms of disinformation to CISA, which would then forward them to social media companies for a response. Under President Joe Biden, the shifting focus of disinformation has continued. What? No, I couldn't possibly believe that at all whatsoever. I love my very coherent 80-year-old president. I think he's wonderful and fantastic, and you would be wrong to say that he's a creep for sniffing on preteen girls. I think he's a wonderful example of something that John Fetterman can one day aim towards in order to hope to achieve that same level of articulation. Hey, he's a wonderful example out there. Just a great guy. CISA replaced the Countering Foreign Influence Task Force in the Misinformation, Disinformation, and Malinformation team, which was created to promote the more flexibility to focus on general MDM. Normally for flexibility, but in this case, by now, the scope and effort had expanded beyond disinformation produced by foreign governments to include domestic versions. Yeah, that's where those... Oh, that kind of makes sense now when the DOJ... Because that was in honor around that time when Merrick Garland, after he was getting sworn in. This was after the fact, I guess, a little bit after. You know, when he put out that memo saying that domestic terrorists show up to school board meetings. Yeah, that was funny. The MDM team, according to one CISA official quoted in the IG report, counters all types of disinformation to be responsive to current events. Great. It needs to be updated for a modern audience. Jen Easterly, Biden's appointed director of CISA, swiftly made it clear that she would continue to shift resources in the agency to combat the spread of dangerous forms of information on social media. Words are dangerous, okay? We need to control them. Unless, of course, you have a government in a specific state saying that you can't enforce speech on others, and then they're like, why are you trying to censor us? One could argue we're in a business of critical infrastructure, and the most critical infrastructure is our cognitive infrastructure. Just get out of my mind. Is that a sentence anybody ever thought that they'd have to say about the government? Get the fuck out of my head. In the Western world, and not so much in places like China. They kind of do what they do. So building that resilience to misinformation and disinformation, I think, is incredibly important. Great, wonderful. And that's the person who's running the Misinformation Council, the actual one, not the front that's out there. Terrific, fantastic. CISA's domain has gradually expanded to encompass more subjects it believes amount to critical infrastructure. Last year, the Intercept reported on the existence of a series of DHS field intelligence reports warning of attacks on cell phone towers. Okay, which it had tied to conspiracy theorists who believe 5G towers spread the coup. Yeah, that one never made any goddamn sense. Okay. One intelligence report pointed out that these conspiracy theories are inciting attacks against communication infrastructure. Yeah, that one right there, that one might be a red herring, or I would totally believe that might be one of those manufactured conspiracy theories like free bleeding that ended up, gestating in the deep bowels of Pole and then making its way out to some of the more gullible individuals out there. I would believe that. CISA has defended its burgeoning social media monitoring authorities. Of course, we deserve to have a job here and get paid handsomely for it. Stunning and brave, stating that once CISA notified a social media platform of disinformation, the social media platform could independently decide whether to remove or modify the post. Otherwise, we'll just hammer your guys' service, and then we'll eventually just force you into submission. Kind of like how the FBI just went down there and just moseyed into old Facebook headquarters and say, hey, you guys should be paying attention to this stuff, or else. And they're all like, okay, fine. Just put your boot up on the table for us to just lick clean for you, because it's a bitch to just lean flying over all the time. CISA's goal is to make platforms more responsive to their suggestions. In late February, Easterly texted with Matthew Masterson. Oh, there's that guy again, Matt Masterson, a representative at Microsoft who formerly worked at CISA, that she is trying to get us in a place where the Fed can work with platforms to better understand mis-dis trends, so relevant agencies can try to debunk as useful. Oh, great. That's a minority report shit.
Is anybody going to say anything in the future that could potentially, perhaps, be problematic? If you could just go ahead and red flag that speech so that we could just go ahead and get rid of it beforehand, that would be great. Okay, thanks.
Meeting records of the CSAT Cybersecurity Advisory Committee, the main subcommittee that handles disinformation policy at CISA, show a constant effort to expand the scope of the agency's tools to foil disinformation. How terrific, fantastic. Let's move ahead a little bit. The Biden administration, however, did not take a stab at making part of the infrastructure public in April of 2022 with the announcement of the Disinformation Governance Board. Do we need to go back over that type of stuff, or maybe it just we'll just see how it all winds down here? And none of that was terribly relevant. DHS's expansion into misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation represents an important strategic retooling for the agency, which was founded in 2002. Don't want to give it too many more years. In response to the 9/11 attacks as a bulwark to coordinate intelligence and security operations across the government. You had to make sure that, the agencies were actually sharing information instead of just, creating more agencies that would just create more middlemen. It's almost like you've overcompensated for that. At the time, the FBI deployed thousands of agents to focus on counterterrorism efforts. Now they're just sat at keyboards like so many other out-of-work gender studies graduates. Cool, fantastic. But traditional forms of terrorism posted by the likes of Al-Qaeda evolved with the rise of social media. Yeah, you had fucking music video shoots by ISIS out there back when they were burning people in fucking cages, okay? Or just sending them into shark tanks. But they did have a banging fucking soundtrack. If we could just go ahead and, acknowledge reality here for a moment. Anyways, after initial reluctance, social media giants worked closely with the FBI and the DHS to help monitor and remove ISIS-affiliated accounts. That shit is fucking haram. FBI Director James Comey, I spit on his name, told the Senate Intelligence Committee that law enforcement agencies needed to rapidly adapt and confront the challenges. And they're like, we found a whole bunch of problematic emails on the Secretary of State's hard drive. What do we do about this, Director Comey? Oh, don't worry about it. I'll just pretend to investigate it somewhere around 2016 or something like that. That works for you guys? Great, fantastic. Now, the department has not been fully reauthorized since its inception over 15 years ago. Senate Homeland Security Committee warned in 2018. As the threat landscape continues to evolve, the department adjusts to organizations and activities to address emerging threats and protect the U.S. homeland from memes on the internet. Have you seen that PP that's out there? He crazy, and he got little kid Peepo. That frog made me big sad. The department will spearhead initiatives to raise awareness of disinformation campaigns targeting communities in the United States, providing citizens the tools necessary to identify and halt the spread of information operation intended to promote radicalization of violent extremism or mobilization to violence. Cool, that sounds like a whole bunch of ways to say, if anybody's saying anything that's just anti-government, we just need to go ahead and shut them down, okay, goodbye. DHS also began to broaden its watch to include a wide array of domestic actors viewed as the potential sources of radicalization and upheaval. Boy, it's almost like when Edward Snowden leaked what the NSA was doing, they needed another alphabet agency to pick up the slack because nobody trusted the NSA anymore. So like, oh, don't worry, DHS is big and overarching. They can just go ahead and pick up the fucking slack. That's what this is really reading like at this point in time. Oh, the government's not spying on all your communications. Yeah, no, not specifically anymore. We got caught for that one. We're just monitoring all the platforms that you use. What's the fucking difference? And a June 2020 memo bearing the subject line, actions to address the threat posted by domestic terrorists and other domestic extremists, prepared by DHS headquarters for Wolf, Trump's acting DHS secretary. We know. Delineates plans to expand information sharing with the tech sector in order to identify disinformation campaigns used by domestic terrorism actors to incite violence against infrastructure, ethnic, racial, or religious groups or individuals. The memo outlines plans to work with private tech sector partners to share unclassified DHS intelligence on DT actors and their tactics, so that platforms can more effectively move effectively. Okay, use their own tools to enforce user agreements / terms of service and remove DT content. Okay, now what did Trump do with that? Because in on or around that time, he was very concerned about what TikTok was doing, and he was moving in certain ways to ban that fucking degenerate platform. And what him and Wolf, because I don't necessarily remember the moves that Wolf was doing or how long he was there. But they were pretty concerned with the people that were, acting a fool in June of 2020, actually committing domestic terrorism on a fucking consistent basis. Not the myths and ideas that some political parties will go ahead and paint them as, but the people that were mything a local store owners' businesses to the ground and using their ideas to throw Molotov cocktails at police officers. Biden also prioritized such efforts. Last year, the Biden administration released the first national strategy for countering domestic terrorism. We know. We are working with like-minded governments, civil societies, and the technology sector to address terrorists and violent extremist content online. Oh my God. Last year, a top FBI counterterrorism official came under fire when she falsely denied to Congress that the FBI monitors American social media and therefore missed threats leading up to the attack at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. We know you were looking at them. We've seen the documents. In fact, the FBI had spent millions of dollars on social media tracking software like BabelX and DataMiner. Okay. Biden's ears perked up when he heard minor. According to the Bureau's official guidelines, authorized activities include proactively surfing the internet to find publicly accessible websites and services throughout which recruitment by terrorist organizations and promotion of terrorist crimes is openly taking place. Where the fuck does that happen, man? That's some deep dark web shit. Another FBI official, a Joint Terrorism Task Force officer, described to the Intercept being reassigned this year from the Bureau's International Terrorism Division. Sounds pretty fucking important, where they had primarily worked on cases involving Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group, to a domestic terrorism division to investigate Americans. Great, wonderful, fantastic. Your government's spying on you by somebody who was literally taken off of, okay, cool, how are radical Muslims trying to kill all of us, to some fucking deep fried shack memes that are still circulating on the internet. Good stuff. They work on an undercover basis online to penetrate social networking chat rooms. Hello, fellow children. Do you like that ultra mega meme? It sure is funny. Privacy Act of 1974. Sorry, what? Enacted following the Watergate scandal. I've got to do a video on that because I don't know enough about Watergate, but what I'm hearing about everything that went down because of it was, well, Nixon was kind of popular and then he ended up getting railroaded and we needed to have Jimmy Carter installed in, okay? I'm just saying. Restricts government data collection of Americans exercising their First Amendment rights. Okay, cool. I liked when that Privacy Act was enforced on the NSA back in, what was that, 2014, 2015? Oh, okay, cool. Safeguard that civil liberty groups have argued limits the ability of the DHS and the FBI to engage in surveillance of American political speech expressed on social media. That's why they're trying to get different classifications for misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. If they can go ahead and get those as unprotected forms of speech, hateful speech, violent speech is not protected speech. That's what they're ultimately trying to do by all this stuff. They're trying to maneuver around the acts and laws that are already on the books in order to just target their political opponents. This is some late stage empire shit right here. Good work by the Intercept. I don't think I've said this yet, but it's very fucking obvious. Okay. And then just a little dabbling on how the New York Post reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop ended up getting him fucking yeeted because a couple of people were a little bit big upset that that might be a problem for old Uncle Joe. Before we take off here, I'm taking a look at the recording time length, and I thought this would be long, but not this long, so pause. Anyways. In retrospect, the New York Post reporting on their contents of the Hunter Biden's laptop ahead of the 2020 election provides an elucidating case study of how this works in an increasingly partisan environment. Yes, indeed. Much of the public ignored the reporting, or has assumed it as false, as over 50 former intelligence officials charged with a laptop story was a creation of Russian disinformation. And that comes back, survey says false. Oh, okay, cool. The mainstream media was primed by allegations of election interference in 2016, and to be sure, Trump did attempt to use the laptop to disrupt Biden campaign. Yeah, exactly. He tried a whole bunch of stuff, okay? Tried to get Biden tripped up in such Machiavellian traps like, what's my name? It's not Abraham Lincoln. And Joe failed that test. Twitter ended up banning links to the New York Post report and the contents of the laptop during the crucial weeks leading up to the election. Facebook also throttled users' abilities to view the story. Both of those have been verified and flushed out in recent years thanks to, well, at the time, the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, and right now the android that claims or at least responds to the name Mark Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan's podcast. In recent months, a clearer picture of the government's influence has emerged in an appearance on, there it is right there. I don't just pull this shit out of my ass. Joe Rogan's podcast. In August, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg revealed that Facebook had limited sharing the New York Post reporting after a conversation with the FBI. We already been over this. If you want more information on that, I have done a couple of videos on that. Documents filed in court as part of the lawsuits by the Attorney General of Missouri and Louisiana add a layer of new detail to Zuckerberg's anecdote, revealing that officials leading the push to expand the government's reach into disinformation also played a quiet role in shaping the decisions of social media giants around the New York Post story. According to records filed in court, two previously unnamed FBI agents, Elvis Chan, thank you very much, an FBI special agent in the San Francisco field office, of course, and Demlo, a section chief. That's cool. That guy's got like one name too, like Cher. He's only half as cringe. Well, let's be honest, about a quarter as cringe. Section chief of the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force were involved in high-level communications that allegedly led to the Facebook suppression of the Post's reporting. Hunter Biden laptop story was only the most high-profile example of law enforcement agencies pressuring technology firms in many cases. The Facebook and Twitter accounts flagged by the DHS or the partners as dangerous forms of disinformation or potential foreign influence were clearly parody accounts or accounts with virtually no followers or influences. Yes, the feared bot accounts that are out there that just take somebody's profile picture, repost a whole bunch of shit. YouTube's going through it big time right now. A whole bunch of Telegram scams, crypto scams. They just take over people's accounts, and Google, man, they don't see them all that concerned. They're just more concerned with taking high-profile accounts offline. Like Steven Crowder, okay? He won't be able to stream during the midterms. Fucking quinky of a goddamn dink, if you ask me. Just about everyone, I'm sure, of everybody's subscription feeds that are out there. You probably have 1, 2, 3, or 4 different people that have been hit within the past month with some form of a strike, okay? Either a 7-day, a 14-day, or maybe you even might know a couple of people that just got their accounts fucking yeeted for no good reason. They could give a fuck about that stuff, okay? All of these spurious either flagging campaigns by a bunch of pissed off tranny sympathizers, or perhaps a bunch of bad faith actors within the United States governments of people that have track records of covering elections unfavorably to the administration's narrative. You could go one way or another, but long and short of it is, I think we've all felt the wrath of these policies. We've all had an understanding that something is going on, and now thanks to the good work of Eric Schmidt, the Attorney General in Louisiana, I wish I knew the guy's name, and the Intercept right here, we have a little bit more of a clearer picture as to what the fuck is actually going on. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.